back, guys. We are here after game number 1. GenG took down SANDBOX Gaming, who is currently in first place in 47 minutes, and Life picks up his 4th MVP here in the Summer Split. Now, the two players that are tied for first in MVP are two top laners, Rascal and Summit. They only have 2 more MVPs than Life, who you mentioned is in the running here for Rookie of the Split, or of the Year rather. This guy is really on fire and was a major reason why they were able to win this first game number 1. So congratulations to Life. He's keeping things going over at GenG.
Nice. I see a lot of Riot fist bumps there. The GenG fans feeling pretty good, and the coach looking pretty dapper. That looks like a new zip up there. No sellout from this particular broadcast, though, as GenG still have work to do. It's got battling victory, a long one, the sort of game where you probably need that 10 minutes between games to refuel and try to get your wits around you a second time, but we're straight into pick and ban. My impression was the SANDBOX had some great opportunities in the late game, but the shielding pulled through, and I, for one, always underrate big shields in the late game, just meaning that frontline, everything's a frontliner. Speaking of frontline, the Aatrox banned away, the Jace banned away as well. Dove will definitely want to have a more meaningful performance because he felt like he was an Azir on the outside looking in for the majority of game number 1.
We'll see if any bans change up the landscape here for game number 1, as Lux is going to be one of those major bans. It's by GenG. They give credit to the side of SANDBOX and Joker to pick up that pick. And they ban it away from both Life and Fly, who can both play a lot of that Lux. So kind of a surprising one. I thought maybe they'd leave that one available and perhaps ban away the Karma, but maybe even looking towards a first pick for that, as the final ban from SANDBOX is going to be Yuumi once again.
Kiana and Mordekaiser available today, but going through picks and bans will surprise a lot of people. The first pick, Tahm Kench, surprises nobody. Still going to be super high priority. Not the new bans, or sorry, new nerfs, I should say, on patch 9.14 yet, but they're coming, no doubt, before too long. The Karma Open won't be first picked by GenG, so would not be surprised to see that picked away by the side of SANDBOX.
No doubt. I think both of these teams would love some of those extra shields here once again, as Karma will be immediately picked up. The real question is, what will go alongside of that Karma? The Varus was actually banned by GenG on the red side in the second phase. So giving credit here to Ghost for his Varus, and now they're hovering it once again. We'll see if this is just mind games, as we have seen some mind game hovers, but no, it is going to be for real this time, as Varus up against the Tahm Kench in the bottom lane will happen.
Ripping away what can be a very reliable 2v2 lane. The reason why I don't mind this is that Varus Braum beats a lot of 2v2 Tahm Kench lanes, so I think that's the call here. Probably going to be a Braum pick, I would imagine, from Joker in the bot lane, just to get value out of Varus. Varus Karma obviously could be a strong lane as well, if that's the way they want to go. Peanut's going to just lock in Skarner straight up. This is something that GenG do. A lot of teams won't blind pick the Skarner, except that it could be just an awful dueling matchup against something like the Olaf, but you can wait for your moments, and you know who creates some interesting moments? It's CuVee. He's jumping on to the Kennen one more time.
I mean, this guy, he had a game on the Kennen. He nearly picked up that MVP, no doubt, and he's going to just lock it in here before it can get banned out, and we'll have to wait and see. I would also even give credit to some kind of flex on that one. We'll see if Fly wants to give his hand. It'll be interesting to see, as Olaf is going to be the pick into Skarner. Obviously good into that pick at least.
Not a pick that has worked well in the LCK, but I think SANDBOX can be a team to ape what we saw from, say, EDG, who love the mid lane Karma, jungle Olaf, invade with priority at all moments. That could be happening in this game. We've got a Karma in the game. The Olaf will be jungle, almost certainly coming through from OnFleek. Not a high win rate champion, as the win rate showed. 25% is nothing to feel good about. But the matchup early gives priority, and GenG are a team that can draft like this and say, if you want mid jungle to have a combat lead, we'll give it to you. It's kind of on SANDBOX to use it to the maximum.
Ashe bounced out, which is kind of interesting. They were not happy with giving Ruler the Ashe in game number 1. Felt pretty good with the Lux in the bottom lane. You know, you have so much lane control and vision control with those 2 picks. You have fantastic engage and pick.
Well, you start putting it together, Valdez. Ashe Tahm Kench, pretty famous lane. It feels like Ezreal Tahm Kench is the only one available because Varus Tahm Kench has been taken out. So a more non-standard AD carry with Tahm Kench doesn't have... And yeah, you pointed out the Ezreal also. I missed it, top right band. So I wonder where we'll be going next to Tahm Kench. Ruler has been playing around with some non-AD carries in the bot lane as well, but probably not going to be Yasuo alongside the Tahm. Morgana pick on red side here. Wonder where that one's going. It is a Joker, super famous pick, so maybe he looks past the Braum and we might actually see Varus Morg in the bot lane for SANDBOX.
Definitely not a lane you see all the time. The Kalista here banned in game number 1. I was thinking maybe we could see this one happen. Throw the big catfish in there. And Kalista is going to be locked in now for a Ruler. Interesting stuff here.
Jinx was open, and that's been the most common pick with Tahm Kench in the past week, but they don't want to think of Olaf running in to contest the Jinx, all the movement speed that Karma provides. They'll drop the Jinx and go the Kalista here, which has been a big pick for Ruler. No Volibear to put with it this time. Fly is a resident player on the Taliyah, so mid lane Taliyah going to be the call. A lot of jungle Taliyah and solo queue. SANDBOX have to work out a mid laner into Taliyah, and you can take a lot of different approaches into this champion. Rolling back the Azir wouldn't be something I would love because I thought game number 1 Dove was a super passenger, and he ramps up the aggression. He's going to pick an assassin into the Taliyah, and it's going to be the LeBlanc this time.
I like that one. I'm not a huge fan of the just default Azir when you're just, okay, we might just farm this one out. Let's try to go to late game and make the Azir happen. We've been seeing a little bit too much of the Sandman, so let's see some more LeBlanc, as that will certainly get some action going here. Definitely a pretty fun draft on the side of SANDBOX. I like the Morgana coming back for Joker as well.
I love the lanes. Karma can shove out Kennen early before Kennen gets enough lifesteal. Remember, this will not be AP Kennen, so there will be a time where he might be able to win extended trades with high amounts of lifesteal and attack speed. LeBlanc against Taliyah is a potential kill lane. The bot lane 2v2 is heavily winning when you go down the Morgana Varus side. And the jungle needs no explanations. A level 6 jungler versus Olaf. So a lot on paper the SANDBOX can use in the early game, but this has been a team that struggled to snowball early game leads. So GenG are trying to play with the nameplates on and say, we can deal with SANDBOX on these sort of champions, and it's on SANDBOX to show us that OnFleek can recreate his heroics on Sejuani from game number 1 with even more aggression in game number 2.
It'll be interesting to see how this one does pan out, as we're getting one last look over here. The Olaf is going to be sticking out there, has a 25% win ratio here in the LCK so far, but OnFleek looking to try to tie it up against GenG and get that win rate a little bit higher on the pick. As game number 2 here in match number 51 will begin right now. There's that long chant once again, as we are coming on in to game number 1.
Really interesting comps to talk about between these two. We were talking about how SANDBOX have a lot of tools in the early game, but a lot of the scaling in this game is much less about 5v5 than a lot of our games. If you consider what SANDBOX's comp does from behind, it's almost nothing. It's so hard to use a comp with Olaf, Karma, LeBlanc if you don't have vision control, if you can't look for picks in side lanes, because eventually Taliyah, Tahm Kench, 2 semi-globals, there's a lot of hard crowd control, there's a Skarner coming out of vision. With a vision disadvantage, SANDBOX feel like they just kind of filter one by one, someone gets Skarner ulted, they die, and objectives go down. Taliyah and Skarner are actually one of my favorite jungle mid duos in terms of what they can do post 6, because actually the Talia wall behind someone being Skarner ults, and then people have to flash just to back up the person who's being suppressed. So there can be cool little things around that. Jin a few years ago were the first team to show us that duo and find value out of it. So a lot to like about GenG going forward, and because it's on here Kennen, there's even the potential for stability against the Karma in the 1v1.
You mentioned combos with the Skarner. I was thinking about the Thresh that I believe that was Griffin that were playing a lot of that in Challenger before they did come up, and played it a bunch here in the LCK even, but unfortunately we don't get to see too much Thresh anymore, as we're taking a look at presence. Actually, I was the stats, and Tom Kench was
It'd be up there.
number 5 in terms of presence. He is the second most picked, though, which is kind of interesting. I guess he doesn't get banned out any. I mean, he gets banned out a lot, but not so much.
It ebbed and flowed. Remember, it evolved to be Tom Kench banned to stop the Sona threat with Tom Kench for about 2 weeks there. And Sona herself actually was banned against GenG in this particular game. I want to come back to the draft a little bit just for a second to say that it's not that, you know, we talked about how good GenG is eventually. That doesn't mean the SANDBOX made a mistake. We already talked about their priority, and a priority meta, that's nice. Also, if you're on the front foot and get a lead, it's so oppressive to deal with Karma movement speed, LeBlanc poke, and then Varus Morgana under turrets taking the sieging, and GenG not having items to fight back. All of that can happen from the SANDBOX side. It's just kind of a can versus a bit of a gold total inevitability about GenG. So we're just looking for action from SANDBOX, and GenG, you know what? They love being the passenger, and they're in the passenger seat once more.
Yeah, it kind of does feel like the scripts are flipped a little bit in that sense. We did feel like GenG had to be a little bit more proactive. Didn't end up being too proactive, though, in that game either, which is kind of interesting how that works out for them sometimes. So
Olaf's playing top side, so you notice Joker and Ghost are playing very respectfully against Tom Kench Callista, which is obviously not what you would first expect. The first relenting was because Skarner had control of bot side Scuttle, and they were worried about a potential gank there, but picking this duo and then just kind of farming it out against a Callista lane that doesn't even have aggressive synergy, right? It's really just about Callista with lane presence and Tom Kench defensive. Definitely want to see a bit of a switch flipped on the side of SANDBOX. And like we mentioned, Joker's most famous pick coming into Pro was he was seen as a godlike Morgana in both his Pro and solo queue career, kind of a one-trick almost in terms of how good a Morgana he was relative to his other picks. Definitely been on the sidelines this year, mostly been on the tanky supports, but cool to see as the chains do land in mid.
LeBlanc pretty happy in this one, as long as you don't have any rocks on the ground, but you can see that fly a little bit late on that one. It's very hard to react to, actually, when Dove does go forward on that LeBlanc.
And you are a resident Talia player in the past. My impression is it's kind of a pre-Banshee Veil, post-Banshee Veil matchup for the Talia when it comes to getting into the lane.
I mean, it's absolutely an item you're going to want.
Lost Chapter into straight Banshee Veil, or finished Ludens into Banshee Veil? What are we doing?
You can even consider the Merc Treads on the Talia. You don't always see the Sword Boots on her all the time for the penetration. But she does need that mana as well, just to keep up with the pushing, especially after her AoE rocks got nerfed.
So, you know, you are very quick to always call out when I make a good prediction. Is it going to be Mercs, Lost Chapter, straight Banshee Veil? What do you think? What's our expectation for Fly? He is against Karma as well, remember?
Yeah, I'd say maybe just go straight into the Banshee's Veil. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's either that or the Lost Chapter first. I think there's really only 2 ways to go. I think you definitely go for the Merc Treads in that sense. And
then our fun kind of watch is, if you see kind of Fiendish Codex before Lost Chapter, does Olaf just run straight at all the blue buffs and try to deny that? Kind of like Anivia losing blue buffs in the Froggen days years ago. There's always next levels available. Here we go, level 6 for Dove.
Dove has been landing all these chains, but a fantastic read by Fly. He's been looking for that one. We've seen that 2 or 3 times already. Finally lands that one onto LeBlanc, and that's one of the ways that you can get that even trade even after the chain does come in, as we got a lot of predators here on this Rift.
Like ships in the night, but very, very conspicuous in this case. Both of the big ships blow their horns and like, hey, we're here. Very much announcements from both as they roll by.
I can always go for some top lane here, especially when it is CuVee. You talked about getting pushed in. Seems like that's all Summit's doing. He hasn't bought since the beginning, and he's farmed 64 minions. So definitely has to go back and buy something.
And if we do our kind of go back to what we're saying about, wow, look at that early game from SANDBOX. We scanned through the lanes, nothing in top, nothing in jungle. Two minion waves in mid, so that's a nice lead. Bot lane losing by 2 minion waves, which isn't necessarily expected with Morg plus Varus against Kalista Tom. So overall, GenG's read is actually pretty on point in terms of what they can salvage. Now, it's not 14 minutes, so the early game's certainly not over yet, but so far it's been pretty comfortable. And if we're just seeing buff transfers and defensive jungle clearing, you're feeling really good as GenG.
Yeah, you do gotta feel good for them, especially with their win streak that they're on. It's many different things going right all at once. And, you know, Fly coming into the lineup, they defeat Griffin, take out Life. Now they're winning against the first place team in SANDBOX. It's a lot of just great stuff for GenG. Everybody's kind of memeing about the World's Gauntlet as well, how it's their roll up into that. And obviously, CuVee is another name you have to mention. Life getting a lot of MVPs. Do you think they've got a good chance to make it to Worlds? Do you think that, well, I'm going to have to hold that thought as no Black Shield come in and Joker is dead. See you later. Very clean from Peanut. That's going to be first blood at the bottom.
I mean, moments like that we just saw does elevate them in my eyes, because the biggest problem for this team this year, to me, the pass-fail on if GenG could work in 2019 was, can Peanut be the player to get them to the late games that Ruler was always ready to slam down, that CuVee was very often great at playing in side lanes, or not? The synergy between Peanut and his lane has been very poor all year. Moments like that were super decisive, go in, Black Shield not available, kill comes in, does start to elevate them, and they also benefit from no Korean team being in great form. Remember, SANDBOX are first in the LCK right now, and yet GenG are looking very competitive at minimum and might just beat them 2-0 Valdez. So I think you'll be a fool to say that GenG aren't within a pretty big shout of making a late run towards Worlds.
Absolutely. I mean, this was one of the teams from the 7. You know, I felt like Life, PT, and Jin were kind of down there as, you know, they know where this Morgana is, and it's just totally unexpected. Joker can't flash, he can't flash shield, he just dies without doing anything.
SANDBOX, I believe it would have been around a back timing, are able to pick up an objective on the bot side, but it's a Cloud Drake, a high-value Cloud Drake, we should mention, is LeBlanc, Karma, Varus, Morgana, everyone here is using mana to form lane presence. They don't hold on to full mana like Tom Kench half the time. So that's going to be useful for them. But if that's all they've got to show for 3 pressure lanes and a winning jungle matchup, GenG are just straight up winning. Back away from the top side. No Rift Herald start at 10 minutes, but things are falling into place one by one for the 2017 World Champions.
I'm excited to see if they can keep it up here. Certainly, things are going well tonight already. As CuVee is having a little bit of trouble there, and he is at least keeping up in the CS. We see Peanut now thinking about coming up to the top side after using that Predator. Now it's going to be OnFleek's turn to take a look at Shelly.
He runs at it. He's got LeBlanc to back him up, so you could understand a start here, but it seems like it's much more about clearing vision than actually making a real start onto the objective. Summit might be caught, topside.
Oh, he is so caught here. The stun is going to be followed up by CuVee, and that's going to do it. 2-on-1, another great gank timing from the side of Peanut.
And that's what we're talking about, the timings. That's not Peanut farming out to level 6, not holding his Karthus to much later. That was not a Peanut problem, that was a team problem. Actually integrating the jungler into the lane states. CuVee and Peanut showing renewed form as a 2v2. GenG can even freeze in the bot side and threaten. Somehow, they're threatening top, they're threatening bot, and Talia's getting the first roam.
Talia gets the first roam. Obviously, this lane is not going to be the most simple lane or the easiest one to handle, but I feel like given the circumstances, still doing a good job here. Gonna force that distortion back as Peanut is just all over the place. Doesn't go for the Rift Herald. We saw him start it up, but then actually moved down towards the bottom side, cleared out a lot of vision, and is now hovering around this area after going for the Rift Scuttler.
Oh, everything's going the way of GenG, though. Think about how many things we lined up, and they were really set up to be kind of hit for home runs by SANDBOX in the draft, but then you see moments like this where Synergy's beautiful, into the Death Chamber goes Summit, Skarner's getting Rift Scuttles at 12 minutes. You look at turret plates and count down how many those strong lanes got. The answer is bagel. None for the side of SANDBOX. 2 on the bot lane for GenG, just because they've had control of the lane from very early after Skarner got the bot side scuttle, and they've been repeatedly going for the play that every Korean team's waiting for. Slowly build up a minion wave. This is not slow.
Oh boy, that's a fast stole off though, so he is going to be able to get that Predator off and get away from harm's way. As CuVee, though, is going to get the slow here on a Summit. There's that stun.
No flash.
Teleport comes in, but they want to get the kill here on the Karma first. Now let's see what SANDBOX can do. And Slicing Maelstrom, safe for the perfect time. They're going to win this fight for now, as OnFleek desperately trying to take down the cannon, but he can't. And GenG already gets 3 kills, and they're looking for more. As Joker's getting low, they get a 4th one on the backside, as Dove will be the only surviving member of SANDBOX.
GenG is smurfing on SANDBOX in this game. They might have been around 5th to 7th, but they are making SANDBOX look silly. The next levels and their understanding of those skirmishes into fight was something that SANDBOX just were not on the same wavelength on. They weren't even close. GenG are rolling over first place SANDBOX Gaming.
And it really is that demolition of a game. I mean, they're going to take down that bottom turret. They're going to try to get Shelly here and perhaps even get some plates with it. We'll see if they go immediately to the top lane. Looks like no, they're just going to forego the plates for now, as everybody needs it back with all of their giant stacks of cash that they picked up from the last fight.
Oh, I'd love to watch the reactions of the coaches here. I'd be Craigasm if I'm the GenG coach, because watch this play, and it's very much GenG saying, get the hell out of my game. First Summit goes down, that's understandable. CuVee never uses ult at the start there. He sees the TP ward and he says, okay, we're coming into me, are we? They take the kills on that side, and meanwhile SANDBOX are just absolutely trying to make any level of salvage, just a kill from morale around the side. The 4th kill goes down. They chase out Dove as well. I don't think there's going to be too much exclaiming here, but this is the moment, honestly, that it feels like GenG won the game.
That's a big nice from him as well. Good old Ruler. Doing a good job on the Kalista. Again, he wasn't there for that fight. He was kind of just chilling in the bottom lane, so it's kind of funny that he was the one that we got the camera of. He picked up all of the plates in the bottom lane, so that is one giant Kalista. Look at how ahead he is on the Varus as well, because Ghost teleported into that fight in the top side. There's just way too many things that went the direction of GenG. We're going to pick up a Cloud Drake here. Look to push their advantage even farther in this game.
I mean, you can't really push it much further if you're GenG. Look at the item differences between the two. We got no one item on Summit. He's going for more expensive, but he might just get solo killed.
I think this is going to happen here too. Summit, no summoners, and at least we'll get the roots just barely there at the end. So we'll deny a kill onto CuVee, but it doesn't look good that if every time you get close to the cannon, you're nearly dying.
We got boots to seal and dagger advantage over the enemy Varus as Kalista. That Hurricane's going to be nice and early. Will be GLP, a crown favorite. So apparently every GenG mid laner loves to pick up GLP on the Talia, Twin Shadows or no. That was a build that was pioneered by Crown at a tournament people forget exists. I am GenG years ago now. He brought back Talia after, if you remember, the champion came out before Worlds, looked really strong, was super hard nerfed and never was played at Worlds till Crown brought it out at I am GenG after that tournament. Speaking of Fly, Talia lying in wait here. They're ahead of this play as well.
Here comes Talia. CuVee's flashing into that one. Not sure about that, as maybe a little bit overconfident this time around. Talia Not going to do a great job against these two, but here comes the rest of GenG. A little bit late to the party, so that will be 1 mark on their record, as they thought they had the jump, but LeBlanc able to do enough damage and pick up the kill.
Bit too assertive there, just like the Trundle in game number 1. Had to watch on. Ghost hits a nice reflex ult to slow down the Predator use from the Trundle. They can jam down the Rift Tower and get in mid lane outer when you've got the global advantage. Pretty nice for GenG.
Ruler just dancing around the turret as he doesn't seem scared of anything. He's got the Tom Kench in his back pocket. Looks like the mid laner fight in the top lane went towards Fly as well. And now we're about 5,000 gold ahead already for GenG. So things going extremely well this time around. We'll see who's going to be the main carry in this one. Ruler's got a good chance.
I would be so impressed to see SANDBOX come back in this game. I feel like it might already be done based on how we were outlining, how we felt like if Vision ever dropped from SANDBOX, what's an Olaf to do? What's a lot of their pieces to do against globals and strong pick power on side of GenG? And you know what? They've even got better items, Valdez, so things are really set up well here. It feels like GenG's game to lose, but we were thrown off by Karma once today, and she's been the champion I've had the hardest time evaluating just because AoE, movement speed, and shields, both those things are really relevant. The extra auto attacks an AD carry will get, the aggressive positioning, whether your flash is up or down, that a Karma can provide. So at the end of the day, it's going to have to be just about Karma because their items certainly aren't going to be doing all the heavy work on the side of Summit. But can they even get those groupings off? Because right now they're getting picked around the map.
Summit does not have his flash, and you can see that Peanut does not even have to use Impale. Just going to wrap all the way around. You see his, you know, they got Vision in there, but not actually around the place where Peanut is now. So he was able to sneak all the way around and catch Summit off guard.
They get what GenG are willing to give them. That's all you're going to get when you fall this far behind this early. Thrown out. Bigger gold lead than we had at any moment in our very long game number 1. Remember that scale of 3,800 or so that we were shown while the game was still running. That happened very early in the piece here. Really big power play from GenG. Life gonna cycle. His flash is back up so he can blow the cleanse. Already we're thinking about Baron for GenG. It spawns in a minute. How about an outer top lane turret? A red buff. They're trying to get everything. What can SANDBOX do?
The original thought there to rotate to the top lane, but instead they pick up that red buff. And 7-1 in favor of GenG here. CuVee is a split-pushing monster against this 0-3 Karma. Good luck, Summit. You're going to need it.
Sure, Summit's just sitting there, a bit like some of those Nuggery Karma games, being like, this Karma is not what I want to be living on. He wants to be on a carry of his own. We love Summit on the real carries. The Akali, champion like Jax could potentially fit him, but on the Karma, he's mostly about utility. The Klepto procs were never going to come in. This was for laning phases. Oh, that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, the Ignite actually ticking down as Summit's going to die again. Didn't have to even guess on that one as Olaf is going to go down. Ruler just stomping forward, saying, this is my turf, get out of here. This is not your river. That's a double kill, and 3-0 now to Ruler.
They are going to win this game with aplomb, Valdez. We're going for YouTube highlights already and trying to pad the stats. 10-2, the Baron buff, 8,000 gold lead almost. It's going to be 8,000 real soon. SANDBOX, they don't have any unsealed spellbooks, and they ain't got no smite, so goodbye Baron, straight off spawn.
We'll see what Dove and Ghost can do.
Well,
perhaps with their forces combined, they can hope that GenG make a mistake with that many sticks in the Baron. Let's see when they do this here. I'm going to try to go for that one. It's a smite from life that eventually picks that one up.
If they lose the Baron with double smite and rend, especially because the rend was under no threat, yes, it may have been nerfed, but that would have been very embarrassing. They're going to be fine. Here's a replay. Turns out flash was up, so Karma was dead.
Yeah, Karma didn't have the flash the last time, didn't have it this time. As Fly was backing.
I assume this didn't kill, but I actually didn't see.
Well, we did not get the follow-up here as Dove the one person in this game that is doing something for SANDBOX.
But you see what's happening in this game. Is going to see the replay of Olaf thinking that he's strong when he is definitely not against this Kalista. Is that, yes, LeBlanc could still do cool things and dive people, but usually that's in service of a play on an objective somewhere on the map. But that was just a kill while everything went wrong everywhere else. And unfortunately, there's a lot of cool pieces, like a lot of what SANDBOX has can be put together for wins in a different game, but very unlikely to change this game's state with just how everything works out on the GenG side, as Ruler takes a lot of free damage.
He's feeling pretty good after the way this game has gone, so, you know, just trying to 1v1 the LeBlanc, maybe not something you want to do every time.
Could have taken a Hex Drinker, which would have been epic value against this. And look at the enemy team, it's full of magic damage. But he went BF Sword, probably just for the GA to kind of close the game out quick, or if the game state changes, can always fall back in something like the Bloodthirster or IE.
I mean, the LeBlanc is still pretty scary. I mean, she's got double penetration with the Oblivion Orb, finished Ludens already.
She's got no friends, though. This is no friends LeBlanc, because they're down 10,000 gold, and that's not LeBlanc's fault.
You can see they're looking for that damage as trying to hang around the back here. Not sure about that one. Life going to be thrown forward, and look at Ruler just frontlining as Joker desperately trying to help, but he can't do anything. And they're just going to grab the Karma on the backside. Dove not in position to do anything. No friends indeed, as now they're all dead. As GenG is pushing in for the victory. This one could be a lot sooner than game number 1.
And Ruler's just trying to make Kalista a Ruler champ just like the other ones, frontlining, knowing exactly how strong he is. And it's going to slam down SANDBOX. This could be the fastest game of the split.
It's going to be a big one for sure. A very fast game will go the way of GenG here. 23 minutes. Dove looking for another kill. He's going to be 3-0 by the end of this game, but they just got killed 2-0. And props to GenG coming up big. They continue their streak in a big way, taking out the first place SANDBOX Gaming.
And it is the fastest game of LCK Summer, not by too much. 23-19 was the last between Griffin, and that was a SANDBOX victory. Now, SANDBOX down and SANDBOX down in crushing fashion, dunked by GenG in game number 2, and we wondered whether they could pay forward what they did last week. They say, don't care about your analysis, we're just doing our thing. And right now, their thing is pretty damn scary, Valdez. Very impressive performance, and what it means, because it's multiple layers to the victory here for the side of GenG. They integrate their jungler way better than they have in the past. Individual performances are stronger. They looked razor sharp. They played a draft that they were able to command really well. Peanut the best, says the sign from the global fan. I mean, you're definitely feeling good about that sign today, as everyone on GenG deserves a pat on the back. A nice meal. They've just made a meal of SANDBOX, and where are our #1 team in Korea at? Who is the best team in Korea? Don't look to me for answers. I've got none.
It's really hard to say right now. I mean, GenG looks so good, but how long is this gonna last, you know? They've already taken out 2 big teams, but was that just Griffin and SANDBOX on the down as GenG are on the up? It's really hard to give a definitive answer to that one, as you were mentioning. So for now, rather than, you know, trying to pick 1 out of the 7, we can just say that for today, GenG should be incredibly happy with their 3 wins in a row.
And I feel like this is the first GenG kind of passage of play all year where there's lots of people to praise. Ruler is really good at League of Legends. He is a god tier 80 carry, as he's got the camera on him and the crowd losing their mind about him. He, in spring season, was the spring MVP for me.
He's got 5 billion things on his backpack. Yeah. How can he not cheer for that?
He should add a SANDBOX logo, because he's definitely caught that Pokemon as well.
Yeah.
Like, Ruler is royalty. Had a wonderful spring. He would have been my MVP of spring, even though Griffin were dominating the regular season. But around him, it was a lot of people not stepping up. It was never like, who was the top laner, who was the mid laner? Roach was playing mid lane, Valdez, over Fly. So Fly has gone away and really put together something, because he's looked reliable. He's making a champion pool work. And now suddenly he's looking relevant. CuVee's having a renaissance. Is it 2 weeks? Is it a season? We're not to know. Peanut is fitting in with his laners, and Life is leveling up as a rookie in a way that is blossoming. You know, he's looking really good. So overall, you put all that together, and if you're asking me today, GenG's just looking like a hell of a relevant team in LCK Summer.
Yeah, they are incredibly relevant right now. I feel like if you get Peanut up to his top tier level 2, these guys will be an unstoppable force. I mean, you can feel the hype here as well in the LCK studio in Lal Park. I mean, all the signs are like, is it happening once again? The fall, right? The autumn of GenG, the comeback, you know? Let's go to World Cup as well. It's just like everybody wants GenG here, all the fans. The autumn team here is what they're calling them for GenG, and I mean, compared to spring, they look like a totally different team.
And we vocalized how GenG had their struggles with building a fan base even after winning the World Championships as Samsung Galaxy in 2017. A lot of the fans this year came for Peanut, right? Peanut has a really big fan base, and they came over to GenG. They wanted to try a new team with their big jungler, superstar jungler. They talked about the amount of money they spent on him, but they're going to stay for this GenG, because this GenG is winning. This GenG is showing good performance in multiple roles. I'm hoping we're going to start getting the personality. Like, I almost want to give Fly MVPs just to hear his MVP interviews, because he's a smack talker. You can bait him into making a big comment when he's winning. Well, guess what? GenG can do nothing but win recently. They're on a really strong streak. And they've got that game against, am I correct, Kingzone, I believe, later this week.
Yeah.
That's going to be a banger.
Saturday.
That's Saturday. I'm sitting there being like, LS, I mean, I'm jealous, man, because it's a banger of a match day. Griffin versus Damwon, and then Kingzone GenG.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can't have low standards for that match. You got to come in with your high standards, expecting a lot from those two matches, Griffin Damwon and GenG Kingzone for Saturday. I'm taking a listen.
I love how Ruler plays this fight out. A lot of cooldowns are used, and he says, what are they going to do against me? I'm just going to skip in there. Skips on their grave a bit, it feels like, on this one. Hopping mad is Ruler. GenG fans. We talked about how the weather's hot. GenG's damn hot right now. Let's get into the interview. Listen to him, and unfortunately, give the fans about an hour to cool off after series number 1.
Yeah, that was a super long one into an incredibly short one. So you can see that LeBlanc nearly picks up the most damage in the game, but you got to hand that title over to Ruler, who is just dunking on them once he got really far ahead. And yeah, I mean, it was a couple of ganks into one team fight that just blew the game wide open.
You can see the little peak there around, what, 14, 13 minutes, and I was basically calling it over there, because there's no way for an Olaf comp to come back from that sort of destruction when they have a pick comp that's really good from ahead. Turns out the converse is true also. They're really bad from behind, and the Olaf especially, like, what can you do? So OnFleek was the star of game number 1 as Sejuani, a very different animal. This time, the Olaf answered early, and GenG's bold choice of have all the early game, no worries, we'll work it out. They were even or ahead in the early game. Peanut, he stares into your soul, and right now, you got no back talk for him. There's no lulls to be had. Just a very impressive performance. Blind picks Skarner and makes it look good.
He throws out the E first, just good mechanics. And the biggest thing for me is just how he was always in the right place at the right time. Down in the bottom side, gets Ruler ahead. Comes up top, gets CuVee ahead. He was a major part of this fight as well, calling for CuVee to go on in, gets things started. Just always in the right place at the right time, which is why he ends up picking up this MVP for this game. But overall, it was just GenG as a team able to stomp SANDBOX. I mean, that was just so quick and so one-sided. It was over there at like 14 minutes.
And it's the one thing where you show the draft and then you show the game time and you're like, wait, how did you do that against that? But that's just because GenG was next level over a SANDBOX that we talked about their strength of schedule. 2 Jin Air Series, the only victories recently. They looked a bit off.
So I'm going to hand it over to Jisun. She'll help out with the translation of this interview.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jisun with today's interview translation, and we'll be hearing from live Peanut. from GenG. They took down the #1 team and they're now on a 3 matches winning streak. So I'm really happy that we remained our winning streak. So I'm really happy right now. And Peanut, game #1. You were tanking 60k damage on Trundle. How was today's match? Well, my personal performance in game #1, it was okay. So I'm really happy. And this is our first 3 matches winning streak. So it feels really special. So let's go to game #1. First pick Karma and Lux, which is a rotate champion for many different lanes. Why did you end up playing Lux? I'm better at Lux than Fly, so that's why I played it. Then did you guys share any tips in playing Lux together? Well, I'm much better than him, so sharing advice is actually a big loss for me, so we didn't have any special conversation. So the final team fight in game #1 was a very tricky one, but GenG pulled it off really well, so let's go through the highlights. So we were able to hear the mic check here and everyone's just shouting out Irelia, Irelia. So he was trying to flank over there, so I asked CuVee to just mark him. And then Irelia just came in, so we were just trying to focus on Irelia first, and then we were able to win the team fight. So in this team fight, I was doing my best to protect our teammates, so same goes to the final team fight. Especially I was in a position where I can just protect and defend all my teammates in the back line. And Peanut, your ganking is on point. So do you really realize that your performance is getting better? Well, since we are winning, I guess my performance is improved. I want to believe so. And a lot of fans and the players are even calling you the God Peanut. So are you satisfied with that nickname? Well, no attention is the saddest part, so actually I'm really happy that people made that nickname for me, so it's gonna be a positive nickname as far as I can perform really good, so I like that nickname. And game #2, you also had a very clean bot lane gank in the early phase, so let's check this out. How did their jungling path go? So I got the second scuttle, so I was able to hit level 6 faster than Olaf, so I just went for the bot lane gank, and it kind of worked out really well. So GenG is keep evolving. And your next opponent will be Kingzone. So for GenG to climb up higher, it's going to be a very crucial one. So we're just going to do our best based on the things that we prepare, and we're going to make sure to go for a 4 matches winning streak. And Peanut, what about you? We are so hyped. Any message for the fans? So the Kingzone match, we're going to prepare really hard. So I just want to hit 4 matches winning streak for the first time in GenG. So we are in a great momentum, so we're going to make sure to take down Kingzone next time, or this time around. So GenG is keep rising, so we'll be looking forward to more, and thank you very much for this interview. So this will be the end of the interview with Life Peanut from GenG, and I'm going to pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji-sun, for the wonderful translation once again. Good to hear from a very happy Peanut as well, receiving all the compliments, and apparently everybody's calling him the God Peanut now, as he was able to have a god performance there in that second game at least, so will help continue that GenG streak.
Big shout out to Peanut, a player we've had to kind of justly criticize a lot this year because it just wasn't working for him before. The amount of growing up he's done, and I was there for all of it. I remember his debut back in 2015, right? And he's still around. A lot of great interviews with him recently, talking about all the negative nicknames and stuff, and saying, look, I understand how it is, I need to level up, but he can also appreciate the praise as well. So we've seen FLICKR grow up in esports. We're definitely seeing Peanut hit another phase of his career, and it's coinciding with GenG growing up as well. 7-4. Look at the difference between first and fifth. It's almost nothing. And if a FLICKR win, guess what? It's almost nothing between first and sixth.
And, yeah, I mean, Afrika's playing tomorrow against KT, so you can definitely have the good money there on Afrika, at least, to be favored. And all those teams, especially if SKT continues doing well as well. We could have 5 spots with 7 good teams. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see who will make it into the playoffs this time around. Probably the closest race we'll have for a long time, guys. But again, an hour before the next series, we'll be back then.
You take me higher when I feel low. Make my world brighter when I'm alone. I keep on rolling, all with your fuel. You're like my gasoline that makes my dream come true. 'Cause this is the beginning. Together we'll be winning. With you I'm a
I'll fight until